episode number 67, your first official episode of the new year from us, because this is the first time we're all back in a room. Actually recording.
I've been in other rooms.
Yeah, we've been in many rooms, but if you are unfamiliar with the show, this is the Sounds of Stadia podcast, where myself, Chris, one of your hosts, alongside the techie teacher himself in his lovely, freshly decorated New Year's room, Mr. Tom, joins us once again to kickstart 2021. How are you doing, Tom?
Yeah. I'm doing great. A bit sleepy today, though, because it's just sort of like getting the, just oiling the gears again and getting things going, isn't it, really? But yeah, you're right. The room is coming along now. It's a little bit different to the episodes before New Year, but I'm enjoying it.
Is this going to be the permanent home base now? We're not going to expect you to change again in a few weeks now.
No, it's not actually quite finished yet. I've got some grand plans still. This is just probably going to be maybe 2 more weeks, and then it'll be a little bit more furnished. So
lovely.
Watch the space.
Delayed.
Or watch that space.
We will watch that space. And of course, we wouldn't have the Sounds of Stadia trio without the man of many pixels joining us in the new year. He's tucked down his Christmas decorations, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Richie, how are you doing?
I'm quite good. I feel like I'm going to have to get myself another room to record in now, because both of you have changed this year.
That's right, yeah. I too have changed. I've moved into... we've converted our garage. Very nice. For some of you posher people out there. And yeah, I went from having a lovely wall of my collection to just a barren door and a wall. So I specifically invested in the shelf just so I could put some of the little knickknacks that I own on there for your visual pleasure, because I just don't want to be just on a blank wall. It just doesn't feel right. The wife tells you to grow up. Yeah, well, the conversations had to be had around what specifically went on here, because this is more of a lounge now. So other adults will genuinely be in this room. So having all of this stuff on here is it's a bit of a conversation. So I may have lost some things, but I've managed to retain Crash, Yoda, not Yoda, I should call him Yoda, spoilers. Baby Yoda guy, Sonic and such. So we'll see. I might rotate around, but obviously we're all getting into the swing of things again. We're here for the new year. You're here for the new year as well. So thank you very much for joining us for episode 67 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Like I said, your weekly podcast where we round up all the Stadia and gaming news for your listening and viewing pleasure. We're the longest running podcast for Stadia, specifically this side of Google Maps. Because the guys over at Nerd Nest started a little bit before us, but we'll keep the one this side in Europe, even though we're not part of Europe anymore, technically, lads. Another thing to start the new year.
We're part of the physical continent of Europe.
We are. We
are an island.
That is true.
Yeah, but it's still part of the continent.
We're on the same tectonic plate, gentlemen. Yeah, in the sea of lava that flows below the crust of the earth. But you're not here to discuss geography. You're here to listen to us talk about Stadia, and we've got a great show lined up for everyone. This week we're going to talk about your January pro games, which just got dropped recently, but also the news, I think, dropped like literally the day after we recorded our Christmas episodes. We've also got a couple of things we're going to talk about regarding Stadia in 2021 and what their New Year's resolutions look like, because it is a fresh start. We're hitting the ground running. Hopefully we can say goodbye, farewell, fuck off to the shitty year that was 2020. Hopefully things are going to look brighter and much more beautiful for not only the gaming world but everyone in general, and we may be allowed to return to some form of normality in our lives. But then again, gentlemen, we're gamers. We just sit and play in a room many hours, toiled away, and I'm sure over the festive period we took a little break, so we are now returning to your regular scheduled programming. Our Christmas episode, our New Year episode, were obviously recorded in advance, so thank you for everyone who tuned in and checked those out over the last couple of weeks while we were taking a well-deserved break, I'd say. I think podcasting for however many, 50-odd weeks in a row, I think is quite a good record to hold, considering we do this as a hobby. So thank you to you two as well for sticking with us through thick and thin, and our lovely audience out there who stuck by us throughout the 2020 year, because over Christmas we actually passed 900 subs as well on YouTube. We showed some stats last time. It was over 10,000 downloads on podcast services, so we're getting there. We're creeping up on that 1K, guys. It's within reaching distance. It's so close. It's so close. So just
taste the sweetness now.
Yeah, 99 subs in what's that quote? 99 problems, but a YouTube account with limited reach and engagement isn't one. But here we are, doing a podcast for your listening delight. But let's have a look into it. So I wanted to kickstart this show. Obviously, we haven't really been up to much Stadia-wise due to our extended break. But no doubt we have played some things over Christmas, and we did have some things scheduled in to go for your viewing pleasure. So we all enjoyed video game 20 questions. as part of the post show. If you've not checked that out yet, go watch myself and Tom, Richie and Tom, team up and try and take down the video game 20 question challenge, where they try and guess a Stadia game within 20 questions or less. I believe the current record is held by you and me, Tom.
It is. Smash that last one.
It will never be beaten.
I don't know. Go and check out the episode.
You'll have to go and check that out. And obviously, Richie, you and me, we finally recorded our episode of Guilt, the finale.
We did.
That went up this past Saturday.
Yeah.
And
the only piece of recording we actually did over the Christmas break, actually, that
was Guilt. So we did actually break from our break and get that in the bag because we wanted to make sure it was done and wrapped up for everyone. Fantastic game, and to my surprise, gentlemen, it's actually no longer claimable on Pro.
No,
it ended on the 1st of the year, so just like that, if you've not claimed it within the year, you'll have to go buy it now. Which, to be fair, if it comes at a decent price, I would highly recommend it because myself and Richie, I know Tommy, you finished it many moons back. It's a fantastic game, and I'd be really intrigued to see where they go with it if we ever see a sequel.
Yeah, I think it's one of them. It being on Pro for and claimable for an entire year is pretty good. If you haven't claimed at this point and you've had Stadia, it's like, why?
I want to say as well, because I think it's a game that, I mean, as a Stadia player as well, I feel a little bit sort of undercutting them here by saying it, but I think it's a game that actually very much deserves to be on other platforms as well. I thought it was that enjoyable. It would be a good game to play on the Switch, for example. It seems like it sort of lends itself to that sort of player base quite a bit. So if you didn't manage to claim it, then definitely go check it out. I think it's an incredible game. And it's not too long either. You can blast through it in maybe like 8 to 10 hours.
Episodes?
Yeah, there you go. Like even quicker than 8 to 10 hours, apparently.
Yeah. Specifically, to be fair, we did a lot of like postulating on stuff and talking back and forward and discussing like deeper meanings to the stories and doing a bit of exploration. But
I think if you sat down to play it, just focus on playing through the game, you get through in about maybe 5 to 6 hours.
Yes. Yeah.
Although there was a few funny moments we had in between recordings where we forgot how to use like the torch, the fire extinguisher, some of the puzzles where you naturally have that, like, you know, when you pick up a game and you've played several other games since and the control mechanics are a bit alien to you all of a sudden. That was funny. Trying to rethink how you deal with the canaries again and other such things. But
it wasn't like we were going like, oh, it's been like 2 days since we last played. Sometimes it's been like, it's been like 4 weeks since we last recorded it.
Well, that's the problem I had with Monster Boy as well last year. That it was just like, not so much the controls, but just the layout of where the hell you were in that world. And I think games definitely almost need like a previously on Guilt, previously on Monster Boy, just so you can, as soon as you boot up the game, you hit that save file, it tells you like a quick recap of where you last were. Maybe using a screen capture or something. Stadia could do that. Your last recording is just plucked from the cloud and showcased to you in a lovely recap mode. But like I said, we sat down and we've obviously chilled, hopefully relaxed with our friends, our families. We've had some festivities over the last couple of weeks, and before we get into the news, of which there is not that much this week, if we're totally honest, it's all the Google Stadia team obviously having a well-deserved rest too. They broke up with a final blog post just before the beginning of the Christmas week, and that's left us a bit high and dry for actual news stories, so I thought we'd delve into what we've been playing over the festive period. And Tom, I'd like to throw it over to you because I know you've picked up a couple of games, and I think you had a bit of a busy period moving into your new home and decorating, rightly so, doing all those adult things. But did you get a chance over Christmas to sit down and actually enjoy the fruits of your labour?
I did. I'd probably start off by saying I didn't get a chance to play as many games as I would have liked, to be honest with you. I'm actually feeling quite a bit of withdrawal at the moment from playing video games. I'd really actually like to find some time, which really sucks considering we're on the cusp of actually returning to work. So it's going to get really busy coming up soon. But I did have the chance to play, of all games that I didn't actually think I would go back and enjoy that much, Immortals Phoenix Rising. I actually brushed it off when we were talking about our Stadia games of 2020. I'd like to go back and change my vote because Immortals is actually really, really fun. Wow. It's a really good game. And it lends itself very much to someone I'd say who is a bit more of a casual gamer. But those sort of like Breath of the Wild vibes mixed with, there's definitely, like, you can definitely get the sense of like the Assassin's Creed elements that they've taken directly from the games and moved it into Immortals. It is very much an Ubisoft sort of like collectibles, visit locations type of game. But just like your experience with the demo, the humor is there all the way through, and actually the world is a lot bigger than I thought it originally would be. So I've actually found myself sort of progressing at a decent pace, but not really making too much progression. Like I haven't got that far in the story. So far I've gotten to a point that I won't spoil too much, but there's 4 locations you have to visit, and I've just completed one of them to return something or someone, I won't say, to another area. But it's a great game. The challenges are brilliant as well. It really gets you thinking about it. And I've really enjoyed it. I've really, really enjoyed Immortals so far.
That's on my to-do list as well.
I think that might be next on my to-do list. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, it's one of those that I bought. So I'm actually, this kind of could tangent off to another conversation. Which is the Ubisoft sales kind of hit recently, because I ordered Immortals like a classic game. I was like, I want to play this day one. I ordered it, and then obviously we were right in the midst of Cyberpunk and Valhalla. They came out the same day as Cyberpunk actually, and same with Watch Dogs Legion. I've got Watch Dogs Legion, and I'm yet to start them. So just like you said, Tom, I don't want to be juggling 4 massive open world games all across the same period of time. I want to give them each their dedicated moment in the sun and enjoy them thoroughly. And Immortals is one there's that little itch that's in. You could just start it up and do like a few hours, but I know pulling my attention across that and everything else is really tedious. But what's annoyed me since then is the Ubisoft sales, because they've got like, I think Valhalla base Immortals is going for maybe £35 or something.
$35.99.
I was going to say, I'm just enjoying watching Richie buy games on Stadia while you're talking.
It's literally in there, ticking away.
No, I have literally just bought Immortals Phoenix Rising. Like,
so that is the next one on your to-do list, then, I take it.
Yeah. I was debating whether to get it, just wait, because I was planning to wait until Ubisoft Plus comes to Stadia and playing it then. But I'm getting close to needing a new game anyway, and it's like when you mentioned it was on sale, I was like, I'll have a look.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why I originally purchased it, because like you said, Chris, the Ubisoft sales, I just found it, it was at a right price point where I felt sort of like I could justify actually buying it. So I took the dive, I got it, and I've really been enjoying it. That being said, though, Cyberpunk, I still haven't touched Cyberpunk, which I'm really sort of, I'm really sort of, I don't know. I need to find some time to sit down and enjoy it. But because of how busy I've been over the holiday period, I've just not felt that I can sit down to concentrate on a game. So I just wanted to jump into something a little bit more cartoony, a little bit easier, and just digest Immortals instead.
Yeah, it's definitely
as someone who's actually wrote credits on Cyberpunk.
It's the biggest game amongst us all. Go on then, Richie.
I definitely would say you do need to sit down, at least for the first
10 hours.
10 hours. You kind of want to get yourself lost in that world to kind of understand the world, how it works, all the different characters, because it's so it's so different to anything like a Valhalla or a Phoenix Rising, where you can probably just drop in and kind of within an hour or two you kind of know the gist of how the world is. There's a lot of it's the cyberpunk stuff of it, like how to net runners and hacking and all that sort of stuff. Understand how that fits into the world.
Yeah, I totally agree there. I think I said to you, Richie, I think offline, that it took me a good 10 hours to start enjoying Cyberpunk, thoroughly, actually understanding, because it does throw a lot at you really early doors. And especially being a bigger fan of third-person games, getting into a first-person one was like, okay, maybe there was a big part of me inside which was just saying, I would be enjoying this way more if I could just see my character in the world. But then over time, and you do a couple of missions, and you familiarise yourself with the side quests and the skill tree and everything, and the characters and the story, the actual campaign is fantastic. And I really want to get to it, but to Richie, what stopped me dead in my tracks and sent me back to Valhalla, which is where I've spent most of my Christmas, was I had a glitch that is really bugging me, and it hasn't gone yet. And essentially, when I was doing a side mission, you can call, just like Grand Theft Auto, you can call other people who are part of your your crew, essentially. And I rang, there's a guy called Takamura who you do a couple of missions for, and I ring him, and his voice dialogue options come up. You pick what are you up to? What's going on today? And he gives his reply. It's stuck in a loop. So that them dialogue options pop up constantly. It's the same conversation, just loops around, to a point that when I start another mission, the dialogue options are overlaid over the dialogue options of the current mission that I'm doing. So constantly, I'm in the middle of like a gunfight with somebody else, and he just pops up going, "Oh yeah, I've sorted out that gig that you wanted me to look at for next week sometime." And then the yellow options to choose as text pop up in front of the text that I'm trying to respond to the current mission I'm in. And it's just a bit, after like 2 or 3 missions and walking around the free roam world, and he just kept popping up no matter what I was doing, that conversation kept popping up. And and after like half an hour of dealing with it, tried a few different save files, tried a few restarts, it's still there. And I was just like, I'm out. And I went back to Valhalla, and I've just told myself I'll come back to it. And like, my worry now is I start to lose interest. You know what gamers are like, we're quite fickle when it comes to stuff like that, and I worry that I won't get back around to it because Immortals or something else will grab my attention instead.
Yeah, how long have you played into kind of the main story?
I'd say the main story, I'm probably about, well, it's hard to say without spoiling anything.
That's why I was asking in terms of like time.
The actual time, it's hard to say because I don't know how much free roam I've done. For those who've played it, I'm up to the parade in Chinatown, I think, is probably the most loosely way I can say it.
So I'd say you're probably about halfway through, maybe a bit further.
Right. But,
whereas me, I've just arrived at Night City with met up with Jackie, and I'm off to see someone to sort something out. I can't even remember, because for me with Cyberpunk, I got stuck in the VR train for like the longest time because of one bloody thing with like the stealth. Did you guys encounter
is that where you have to
stealth?
sneak past them, but you also have to walk right past his field of vision?
No, it wasn't that one. It was the one prior to that where you have to sneak up and like stealth attack one of the one guy on a platform. Every time I snuck up on him, I just suddenly would just be creeping, and then I'd just be up and walking, so he'd just turn around.
Oh yeah, I've had that bug before. Sometimes I don't know what it is, but sometimes like you'd be sneaking around and suddenly your character just stand up.
Yeah, and just stands up out of nowhere.
Honestly, the only way I figured out to fix it is to quick save, which good job there is a quick save. And reload. That is my approach to fixing most of the bugs. I've had bugs like where my weapon won't fire, or it won't reload, or it will just continually fire, which is annoying when you're in a civilian area. But I've had loads and loads of bugs. I've been run over by my own car.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Self-driving cars in the future.
The favourite one, though, I think it seems to start occurring if you've been playing for quite a while, is, at the bottom right where it says, like, press Y to, like, unholster your weapon, to draw a weapon. It'll just keep stacking up press Y to draw a weapon. I think the highest stack I've had was, like 6 or 7.
It's like Tetris.
It's a UI glitch, and it doesn't affect the game at all, but it's I can just, every now and again, look and be, like, 3 of them there.
Yeah. You're sure that's not somebody actually hacking your optics, though?
Possibly.
Well, I mean, that's the fun, ironic thing with the game is there's actually a few moments when like the actual visuals like they glitch and they phase out, and I'm thinking, I wonder how much this is covering up actual glitches and errors just by the distortion. It's like it's supposed to be there. It's part of the aesthetic of the game. But I've had loads like that too, like little just like the ones that I think as a gamer you can either go one or both ways. You can laugh it off and think it's a massive open world game. I appreciate it's going to happen. You're just like, it doesn't bother me that much, I'll laugh and move on. And then there's game-breaking ones which really disrupt the flow of the actual story and the campaign. I was saying to Richie, I had one where I had a mission where I had to climb into a window and turn on like a power supply switch, smash the window and go to climb in. And similar to what you were there saying, Tom, about him standing up all the time and not doing the stealth attack, every time I went to climb in the window, the game would launch me 200 meters back into a field, and I'd just basically start, and the checkpoint would be 200 meters away. So I'd run all the way back to the window, and the character's going, "Come on, V, just get through the window and turn on the damn switch." And I'm like, "I'm effing trying." Right, so jog all the way back through the desert, 200 meters back to the window. There it is. Go to climb through, and then it starts the animation, but then as soon as I get like one leg over the window, it just goes boom and launches me 200 meters back into a field. And I did it about 6 or 7 times and then reloaded it, and it worked by like the third reload. But it's stuff like that in the middle of a deep, interesting story. It just kind of undermines it a little bit.
Yeah,
it definitely needs a bit more time in the oven, to be honest, that game, because it's not finished. There's just things like, ladders can fuck off. It's impossible to climb ladders. You climb up the ladder and you suddenly just fall back down.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that you feel like it needs more time in the oven, because I'm pretty sure they're still on track for releasing the first DLC for it as well in like the coming months too. They said they're still planning on releasing the early 2021 DLC. So
anyone working on that DLC should be taken straight off that DLC and put into getting the main game.
I thought you were going to say taken outside and shot.
No. Like anyone at CD Projekt Red pushing that DLC right now should be taken outside and shot, because there's absolutely no need for DLC at the moment. There's plenty of game that doesn't work that needs sorting.
Hey, remember this game is getting multiplayer at some point, gents. Whatever that's going to look like. I don't think it needs it, but
I actually think the chance for it having a successful multiplayer is already passed. Just because it got pulled from PlayStation stores, which kind of is a huge deal.
Is it back yet?
I don't know.
I haven't heard anything about it being back.
But the initial hype window, that launch where people might have been interested in the game, has already gone and passed. I think you'll get people going back to it, but it's not going to do it's some fantastic numbers, but in terms of reception and people's willingness to play, and I think it's kind of squandered a lot of good faith.
It's an interesting one. Good thing they've just got that break glass for Witcher 4 emergency right by the side. Because let's face it, whatever damage this has done, as soon as they put the work on Witcher 4, they can get all the money and sales back anywhere. I
think they'll recover because the sales are actually really, really strong, even when taking into account of refunds. So if you take the entire PlayStation player base and basically refund all them, they're still looking good. So I think CD Projekt Red as a whole are going to be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Their stock took a massive hit, but I think that will just creep back up the further we get removed from the launch, and the more positive stories that come out about it when they get the game working and fixed.
Certainly. There's definitely a whole conversation to be had around the morals, and they knew what they were doing, and the game trailers they put out, they wouldn't let press have early access. They only give one review copy to influencers, and that was on PC specifically, and it's the tactics they used to cover up a lot of this launch was it didn't seem to be the CD Projekt Red we've heard so much about and we praised them for over the last half a decade since The Witcher 3's rise to fame. And I think this will be a stark reminder of how fickle business can be, and I think it'll be interesting to see how they try and walk back these issues over the coming months and year. And personally, I think it's totally going to screw them over for Game of the Year as well. Not that with the whole year and waiting, they might be in that conversation, but we saw how it impacts things all around.
When I was probably about 20 hours in, I had a thought where, because for my Game of the Year was Valhalla, I had a thought, I was maybe this was it, maybe this was my Game of the Year. But with the amount of glitches and bugs and stuff, and as much as I love that game, I still love the game, don't get me wrong, but there's just too many broken parts for it to be Game of the Year, in my opinion. Or even in consideration.
I, for one, am looking forward to my first experience in Night City anyway. So.
It's weird. In one hand, I go, everyone should play it. It's a fantastic game. On the other hand, it's when you look at Game of the Year, there's just too much.
Yes, yeah.
Too many problems with forget about the release. Too many problems with the build of the game that I played for it to be in the conversation. Realistically,
okay.
There's a lot to be said. But
however, from 2020 end of 2021. The game might be completely fixed and absolute pristine. It might have done a No Man's Sky, and then it should be in the conversation. But for 2020, it's not.
I was going to say it won't be in hours because we stick to strict adhered rules of it's the year in which the game comes out. Game of the year, not game of the 12-month period beginning January, February, whatever it may be. But so we've played a lot. Any other little titles you guys jumped into over Christmas aside from the big noise?
I jumped into, and I think I may have mentioned this before, but I also played one of the releases that we had quite recently along with Enter the Gungeon. I've been playing a lot of Reigns as well. So Reigns is a fantastic game that I've been just literally sitting down and blasting. Maybe you can probably get half an hour stints out of it. It's just, I think it was about $1.99 on the Stadia store, and it's just a fun little sort of decision making game. It's almost like if you say Kingdom Management meets Tinder in a strange mashup, where essentially you have to sort of like you play the role of
princess. I like that princess.
well, you sort of play the role of a monarch, and all of your subjects come to you one by one, and they each have a dilemma that you have to resolve. So they'll give a statement, and you have two different replies to it. Either you swipe right or you swipe left, and depending on what your decision is, it impacts one of four different meters that you have above. And the whole idea is you've just got to manage your kingdom to make sure that none of these meters ever hits max or ever hits empty, because that means that that particular meter becomes too powerful. So, for example, you've got the church as one of the meters you've got to look after. You've got the people, you've got the army, and you've got financial as well. And if any of those either empties, then your current monarch is sort of like overthrown for a particular reason. But as soon as you die and you get quote unquote game over, that's the end of your reign, and you suddenly become a new king, and you start at the new current age, of which more and more things happen because the effects of your predecessors has an impact on your future kings as well. And it's really, really fun. It's really, really engaging, but there's nothing visually to it. Like there's no moving around the kingdom, going into buildings and stuff. It's literally swipe left or swipe right. That is it. That is the game. But it's a ton of fun, and I've probably put in about 5 hours into it. But it's just one of these games that just makes me want to go and just sort of like play more and more of it when I've got like 15, 20 minutes.
It sounds like one of those that would be best for the touchscreen. Just when you have 20, 30 minutes when you're away from home, just to jump on and manage a couple of swipes left and swipes right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is actually a mobile app as well. I'm just going to double check that, but it still lends itself quite well, especially with like the touch controls rather than having the swiping. You can still use like the mobile touch controls. It just feels a little bit janky to do that. But on the whole, like I say, it's a great game. Double checking. Yes, it is available on the store. Devolver Digital, £2.79 if you were to get it on the Android store.
So it's cheaper on Stadia then?
It is cheaper on Stadia.
There you go. Wonderful. There you go. So,
what also works with touch controls? Cthulhu Saves the World. Saves Christmas, sorry.
Is that how we pronounce it?
The dark one.
I thought we agreed on this.
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu Saves Christmas, yeah.
So
that works actually really well with the touch controls.
It does. You're totally right, because we played that just before Christmas. We actually jumped on because Christmas rudely interrupted our Thursday night streams, as did New Year's, New Year's Day. We jumped in and played a surprise stealth drop. So we may as well talk about it then. Tom, do you want to give us the return of
the 2021 special of the Super Sexy Special Stadia Stories segment, aka the news?
Feels good to be again. And with the news, like Richie alluded to there, the kind of last story we missed out on was the surprise drop of another free pro game. They seem to be doing this to us because it's going to come up again in the next news story. But yeah, Cthulhu Saves Christmas dropped as additional pro game on December the 22nd. So just in time to save Christmas, gentlemen. In fact, he got in there. Me and Richie did a first look Let's Stream on the Wednesday before Christmas. And we had a great time with it. The comedy in that game is so fun. Richie, I'll probably give it better to give it a rundown just because of your Final Fantasy background.
Yeah, it's a very comedic like JRPG. It's weird in places because once you get like the main town, we thought that you go it's like a day counter thing, almost similar to almost like our Persona plays actually.
Ooh.
Where you can only do like a task a day.
Okay.
So you have a list of tasks, and each task you can get different items and stuff, and that certain day's story beats occur. So it is like really kind of like Persona-esque, but unfortunately, one of the downside is a lot of the tasks where you'll go, okay, I'm going to go to the shopping mall, and then you just go through some dialogue trees, and then that's day over. So you don't get a lot of exploration. It's only really in the story beats where you actually get to go on an adventure with your party. So you do build up a bit of a party, and it's your classic JRPG affair. You got attacks and magic and stuff with its own twist where like I think some of your attacks are randomized. But yeah, it's a very charming game. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that was the biggest takeaway from me. Yeah. Without expecting or knowing anything about it, to jump in, the art style got me straight away because it's that broken down kind of 16-bit animation. And and then the comedy, just the Deadpool-esque fourth wall breaking comedy where he's a demon, he's self-aware he's a demon, the game is about him. There's a good few times when they mention that he's doing something wrong, and he says, "Have you seen the title of the game? It's got my name in it. Of course, it's going to be about me." There's one time I think because it's at Christmas, of course. They introduce different characters. I think Bell Snickle comes into there, and they make a reference to The Office. But they can't talk about The Office, so they have to say the narrator steps in and says, "Oh, just due to copyright legal reasons, we can't mention it, so we'll just refer to it as that popular American US TV show from now on." And there's just loads of and then Bell Snickle's going, "Yes, I am the character from that popular US sitcom TV special." And it is really just like there's a couple of moments me and Richie took turns reading out dialogue, and we just had a couple of chuckles to ourselves. But it is very short, I think, for an JRPG. They've said I think you can finish the campaign in about 6-7 hours, so it's not one that's going to take you a long time.
It's a small Christmas game. It's definitely worth it. If you want to check it out, we did, as Chris said, we did a live stream, and if you also want to see me dressed head to foot in Santa outfit.
Yeah, if that's your kick, then go check that out. But no, we had a great time, and I think the biggest thing for me was it was another pleasant surprise out of the blue from Stadia to give us yet another game. So that took us up to 6 games, I believe, for pro games for December, and then that brings us on to our next story, which is, of course, the January pro games were announced immediately after that. So sorry for bringing the news to you a little bit delayed, but we do our best. We do our best. We're not cutting edge reporters with 24-hour newsrooms on the go. So after we played Cthulhu Saves Christmas, we also got our January pro games only a few days back now. So if you're new to the show, you're new to the channel, you can go claim those right now. Don't forget to do that. I've seen a couple of people on social media starting to ask those age-old questions of, do I keep my Pro subscription? Will I lose my games again? The best thing to do is just claim away, and you'll have a great time, and you'll have plenty to go back to. But interestingly enough, this one kickstarted with Formula 1 2020, which I think is quite a big title to get as a pro game. I know it's a racing game, so it's not going to be up everybody's street, but I know there's a lot of people in the community who love playing this game, and from what I've read of the reviews, it's arguably the best Formula 1 game they've put out ever so far, and obviously it's part of the Codemasters team, which are currently going through a bit of a buyout themselves, with EA and Take-Two fighting over their body. So we'll see what that's going. My guess, gentlemen, before we really get into it, this doesn't appeal to you two in any great regard.
Again, it depends on time. Probably not, but there've been a couple of occasions where I've just booted up the old games. Like we got Grid as part of Pro quite a while ago. And you know, there's a couple of instances where I feel like I just want to jump in just to do a quick race. Mm-hmm. So I might give it a shot. If I see like a big Stadia community event or something, I might jump in and play something there. But other than that, no, I'm not going to sit down and put hours into it. It's just not that kind of thing for me.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I'm very unlikely to jump in. Maybe if it is a massive Stadia community event going on that has it, I'll jump in to learn the basics. But I know there is quite a big following for things like Grid and F1 in the Stadia community, so there's definitely great content out there for people. But
yeah, I think it's the Stadia racing community.
There's a lot of them out there, and for me, it's surprising that we've actually got it, because although, ironically, we're going into 2021 and we're getting F1 2020, but the game only came out in July as a full-priced annualized title. So yes, we'll be getting the new title in no doubt another 6-7 months' time. But for me, it's quite a big game. That's like akin to us getting FIFA. half year after release, because ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Chris's Where the Fuck is FIFA count up, and we're currently on 86 days of public release on other platforms, and we know it's coming winter. Yes, you don't have to at me and say, but Chris, they said winter 2021, whatever it may be. I just want a date. Just give me a goddamn date we can look forward to, and I'm not going to let this go until it's out, because I want to play FIFA. I actually played it on PS5 with my brother over the Christmas period, and I'm just thinking, do I just get it on PS5? Because it looked great. I haven't played it in a while. Between us three, I also kicked his ass 4 games in a row, having not played FIFA in many a long time. So, although we did draw once, and I can attest the penalties on that game are still shit. They just don't work. The system is so messed up for penalties still. But it gives me that itch where I was like, I would love to start a career mode, a campaign, play people in the community online and just have a couple of matches back and forth. And yet here we are, 86 days in, gentlemen. And it looks like I'm just going to have to play Formula 1 instead.
I must admit, I had the thought myself of over the Christmas break, because there was a lot of football going on. I was like, I fancy playing a football game. So I was like, looking at my PS5, I was like, I could, but I've chosen not to.
I
want, again, I keep saying this all over. I want to play it on the move. I want my phone. I want to be able to play it on my tablet and not be stuck to the living room TV with the PS5. But Richie, it did drop down to a sale price as well. So this is back to the age-old question: when it drops on Stadia, hopefully maybe this month. My guess is it's probably going to be late February now. What price do we think we'll see it at? I'm guessing 35.
I think it's probably what's the price on PlayStation at the moment?
35.
So yeah, probably 35 then. But I think for me to even consider it has to be sub 30 at this point.
Really? Okay.
Because we are
season's already gone.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Although it's still a weird, messed up season with games being postponed and stuff. But either way, so hopefully we'll see more titles, and maybe it may come as a pro game, Richie. We may see it come Christmas as a pro game.
If it comes as a pro game, you'll get a lot of forgiveness.
That's it won't. Can't see it happening. But yeah, and hopefully we'll hear about that. But other titles we got as well, Hotline Miami. So Richie, you gave us a first look at this way back when it dropped. If you've not played Hotline Miami,
anniversary stream.
It was. You're right. All many moons ago, when we were all allowed in the same room very briefly together. That was a while back. It feels like an eternity ago as well.
That's actually the last time all three of us been in the same place.
That is true.
It really was. It really was.
Such a shame. But yeah, so Game of the Year 2012, Hotline Miami, 8 years late to the party, drops on Stadia Pro. But you know what? Age doesn't matter for this game because, the art style is eternal. It will hold up anywhere. If you've not played it already, really, really fun. Soundtrack is absolutely amazing. And you can just have really quick, daft murdering madness with it. And it's great fun. So go check that out for my recommendation. We also got Figment, which we know was one of the Stadia Makers games. We're expecting the sequel at some point this year, but as part of that agreement with the Stadia Makers program, they were going to bring us the prequel to the sequel coming out, and we finally got that. Looked again, story-based, kind of asymmetric puzzle world. You have to go and explore. It's like this little cat person thing. I don't even know what it is, but Figment is out. Figment Creed Valley, I think, is its full title. Little whimsical puzzler there. So if you're into more slow-paced action puzzle games, go check that out. And Tom, one for you. I believe this one is Ari and the Secret of the Seasons. Is this one did you buy this? Is this a pro game you bought or not?
No, this was a game that I think we talked about in a previous episode, and Richie also expressed some interest in it. But one of the reasons why I decided not to buy it, even though it was very tempting, was I read a lot of reviews online saying that the world just didn't feel complete. It felt too absent of life, which is kind of ironic considering the whole idea of the seasons and everything around it.
But I thought you were going to say the world right now is absent of life. I mean, just with you go on the streets and there's no one there. Tier 4.
But it's another one of these games that now we've got it for free. I'll absolutely jump in and try it. I think the idea of being able to control the elements is almost like a fun little mechanic as part of a platforming adventure sort of play style is very different. It's very, very unique to an experience I've never tried before. So I'll give it a shot now. Absolutely. I think it's the best thing they could have done.
I think I'm definitely going to give it a shot because I actually forgot. I claimed it a couple of days ago when it came out, but I was still neck deep in Cyberpunk, so I wasn't really thinking about what's next. So I think maybe I'll give Ari a shot before I jump into Immortals.
Bit of a palette.
I imagine with it being sort of like another indie title as well, it's not going to be as long or as fleshed out as something like Immortals. So it's probably one of those you could get done before jumping into it.
Get it done, yeah.
Get it done.
It goes back, and another one actually. We'll wrap up with the last game, and I've got a point of contention again for you guys. But similar to Cthulhu Saves Christmas, when the games launched on the 1st of January, we also got El Hijo, however you want to say that in Spanish. Also dropped, but surprisingly, it wasn't in the blog that announced the games. It just dropped with the pro games for January. So this is now 2 months in a row we've had a stealth drop of another title, which actually takes it up from 4 to 5 for January. So 5 games for January, ladies and gentlemen, you can claim. Obviously, we've mentioned this. I think this is another one that's probably been on, I think it was your radar again, Tom, to buy. It looked really interesting. And then it goes back to the age-old question. Why would you buy an indie game on Stadia when I'm right in thinking this game and Ari and the Secret Seasons only came out in November, right?
Yeah. Yeah, very recently added to the store, Ari was.
Like,
I'm very much with you. It's like, why? You keep bringing out games and a couple of months later you get them free on Pro. And it's like, as someone who has no intention of getting rid of my Pro subscription, it doesn't make sense for me to... It's quite annoying. It doesn't make sense for me to support the developer. Mm-hmm. But in some ways, it means I'm getting to play games that I wouldn't have otherwise forked out for. Because, like, over Christmas, if this didn't come in Pro, I think I probably wouldn't even touch Ari anymore. I think I would have completely moved on from it. So it can work for some games, but in other ways, it's like, oh, an indie game comes out, it's like, no, I'm going to hold on to my money.
Yeah, I just know you just know that there is that one poor soul out there who these games are like right up in their wheelhouse, and every month they go, oh, you know what? I'm not into the big AAA. Cyberpunk doesn't do anything for me. Valhalla, it's too expensive. I'm going to spend my money on some indie titles and get some really like good cash value out of these because they're cheaper. I play them forever. And then month on month, there is what I'm guaranteed of all the Stadia players, all 5 of us, there is one of them out there who has bought the same like indie title every month, and every following month have been like similar. I know we joke, Tom, in jest with you. Every game you buy is an indie title goes pro eventually or very quickly. But you know for a fact you're just obviously a one-person case. But there must be many people who Ari really interested them. They bought that. El Hiyo really interested them. They bought that. And all the other titles they bought. And every other month they're getting screwed over by it going free on Pro. And it really just posed the question, why would you buy any indie games on Stadia right now?
I think for me, if there's a game I really, really want to play and I buy it and I've played a lot of it and I've really enjoyed it, I felt like I got my money's worth, and then it comes on Pro like 2 months later, I think I would always look at that and go, well, I'm happy with my purchase, although maybe a part of me would want to wait, but I don't know. It does dissuade me from like giving indie games a try on Stadia. Mm-hmm. It really does.
I'm just having a quick look through because El Hiyo is another one that's been published by Handy Games, who we know they introduced Spitlings to the platform as well. So we've had El Hiyo and Spitlings, which both originally came out at a price and then were released for free. So I'm just having a quick look through to see what other games they've actually published for Stadia to sort of maybe predict what might happen next, shall we say. So they also published Little Big Workshop, which is a game that is on Stadia, and more recently Battle for Bikini Bottom as well, Rehydrated, which the long-awaited SpongeBob game on Stadia. Amongst that as well, we've got an early access game. One Hand Clapping is another game that we've got on Stadia. So I wonder whether down the line something like that might go free to play, even though it is early access at the moment. It's all speculation at this point, but I just find it very interesting that relationship with Handy Games and Stadia is very much gone the same way at the moment, like releasing new indie titles, introducing the indie titles to Stadia, and then we see them going free as part of Pro, as you say, like a couple of months later. It's the
only thing I can think of is that's the most beneficial commercial relationship for these indie developers, where if they get a month or two of it being on the platform, they get the initial surge of cash as it would normally, and then it goes on Pro, and then whatever deal Google has to kind of supplement that. It also means a more secure way of financially for the smaller developers.
It could also be, and this is a bit of a tinfoil hat moment, where you might just think that because of the size of the Stadia player base at the moment, and albeit it's still growing, it might also be sort of like a marketing technique for them, where they say, right, okay, as you say, you get the initial surge of sales, then the game goes free, so the publicity for that game starts to pick up because more and more people try it. So then it opens it up to other platforms at that point then, where they might push it out and say, oh, like, now it's on Switch, now it's on Xbox and PS4. Like we saw with Spitlings, for example, that came out first on Stadia. And then whether it goes to other platforms after that sort of like free period, whether that sort of helps them from a marketing perspective. I don't know. Like I say, it's just speculation at this point, but there could be a benefit in amongst that as well.
Yeah. There's probably various different benefits based on the organization as well. If you're a small indie team releasing your first game or two, it could also just be name recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is a Stadia Pro game. You get people like us talking about the names of the developers, and then suddenly people are now a bit more aware of who they are and what they're doing.
Yeah, so I feel like I
really marketing not for the game but for the developer.
Well, or even the publisher, because I could have put my hand on my heart and said I didn't know who Handy Games were prior to Stadia. Yeah, so it gets their name on the map as well, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, there's been quite a few like that.
And speaking of getting your name on the map, our next news story, I don't think we covered because it dropped randomly again in amongst Christmas week, and I don't think it's been that widely covered over the place. But Splash Damage, obviously the studio behind the recent Stadia Pro and Stadia exclusive title Outcasters, were purchased by Tencent. So they put out a press statement over the winter period just saying Tencent is buying our parent company, Leu. What does that mean for Splash Damage? It means we're excited for what's next. So they had a huge year with the launch of Gears Tactics on PC and Xbox and Outcasts on Stadia, and a bunch of other support across Gears 5 multiplayer and other big titles as well. But essentially, if you're not familiar with Tencent, they're a Chinese company and they own shares in a hell of a lot of people across the games industry. Yeah. Nearly every, I know we joke, but nearly most companies have a percentage shareholder owned by Tencent. And
the weird one where I don't think it's very rare that they actually own any sort of like majority shares or anything. They just tend to own small parts of everyone.
Yeah, it's impressive their reach on it. But Splash Damage obviously joined them. So for me, it would just be a case of how this impacts relationships going forward. Because again, Google notoriously with China don't get along all that well. Because of the way the Chinese government have their own kind of infrastructure of Google set up with I think it's WeChat and that's their kind of brand that covers everything. And Tencent now buying into the Western market with these shares in almost like every gaming industry section they have covered now. And it goes back to all the issues that happened last year, like Blizzard and press statements, I think, with Activision going out about certain things are now cut from games, and shareholders have says on what should be allowed in games because it doesn't represent certain parts of the world correctly. And it gets very political very, very quick when you go down that route. And I'm just curious as to know if this is the end for Splash Damage with Stadia now. They made one game exclusively and now they're out because they're owned by a company that doesn't negotiate with Google traditionally on tech terms. And
I don't know. I don't know a huge amount about Tencent, but from what I can tell by the way they approach just buying like shares in practically anyone they can, it seemed to be more of an investor looking for just a return rather than. I don't necessarily know if they've got any like political ambitions behind it, or is it just a case of if they think they can get a good return by putting something on Stadia, I think they'll be happy to do so. But for Splash Damage, this can open the doors a little bit because almost like how Sony's development studios can interact a lot. I imagine Tencent or there's people at Tencent can facilitate these conversations between other developers, like, oh, how did you do that? We're trying to do this sort of thing, like figure out bugs and stuff and try and help develop each other to grow together.
Yeah,
it's hard to know, to be honest.
It is.
It's just an interesting one when
you
look at
name's thrown around a lot, but you don't know much about them.
Well, this is it. So Tencent in themselves are now the 5th most valuable listed company, overtaking Facebook last year.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you barely anyone has heard of them.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing, that you don't know really what they do, but they're worth more than some of the best known brands on the globe.
Glancing at the wiki page, I mean, entertainment is just one section of what they do. They've got things like social media, entertainment, corporate, like e-commerce, utilities, medical. So video games are one section of what they do.
Yeah.
This is why I think that they're more looking just for
an investment.
Almost like an investment. We're just wherever we think we can get a good return, we can, because they're actually the outright owners of Riot Games, who make Valorant and League of Legends as well. Two massively popular games.
Because that's where they had some problems last year, wasn't it? With one of the winners of one of the competitions from Valorant or something. They won and they stripped them of their title because of something that didn't agree with the Chinese.
That was the Hong Kong Blizzard Hearthstone tournament. That was I see where you're going with it, but there are a lot of issues with, like you say, that sort of like Chinese versus Western mentality, and like what you can and can't represent on the world stage, really. And it does sort of raise questions because you're dealing with a large Chinese like conglomerate company, essentially like a massive corporation, and because they're under the banner of the Chinese sort of mindset, that the government in China, I'm really trying to stay away from politics.
Apologies if anyone.
Really trying to, but like the Chinese government will always sort of like have the bigger say in what they do with their actions. Like as they, Tencent, are now the owners of Splash Damage, should there be something that Splash Damage do on a global stage, the Chinese government could very much have a say in what Tencent do to control that, is what I'm trying to say.
What I think is, because they own 5% of Activision Blizzard, I think they want to maintain a good standing with the Chinese government, so something that is done under a company that Tencent have shares in, even that all the way down to like the esports level, they might just be genuinely worried how the Chinese government might look at that and go, oh, you're connected to these guys. Nope.
Well, the other point we're not really touching on is the fact that the Chinese gaming market is massive. Like, it is huge. There are billions of people in China who, like millions and millions of them play video games. And we're sort of only looking at this from like, what does it mean for Splash Damage from like almost like from the Chinese angle, but the other way around as well. You're introducing Splash Damage games essentially to the Chinese market as well. That it sort of gives them an avenue to publish things in China as well, and that could be massive for things like Outcasters, should they ultimately. I'm just making some sort of speculation here, but does it always remain a Stadia exclusive? I don't know, because again, we can always throw around this label of an exclusive game, but we can't say what that's going to be like in 3 or 4, 5 years. It could change. It could.
Well, Stadia,
if I had to guess, no.
I don't see a way for it to, unless Tencent buy Google.
I think if I had to guess, I think this is probably going to be a net positive for Splash Damage. I don't know whether it's good for Splash Damage's relationship with Google. I think it's at best you're looking no change there. But I have, with when you have one company that is involved in like the political side of one massive country in the world, getting the fingers so wide across a single industry, that's always for me a slight cause for concerns. Like, how far does this go? Because
I'm going to throw something else out. Sorry, I'm going to throw something else out as well there. Tencent have been working on cloud capabilities for gaming as well. So just going to throw that out there.
It'll be like Wii gaming, not like Nintendo Wii, but like WeChat, Wii, all the stuff that they own in China. It'll be Stadia, but it'll just be slightly different. But yeah, only time will tell, I guess, with this one. But it's interesting though that they've not bought shares; they've actually just acquired them outright, which isn't usually their play. So we shall see how it impacts things. But all of this always just makes me think back to when I did history in school. And the lines between communism and capitalism are certainly being blurred right now in the world when it comes to money and who spends what and who gets how much money certain companies own. But either way, that's if you want to, I'm sure there's a million and one political podcasts you could go check out that delve deeper into that. But we won't be doing that because we're here just to talk about Stadia and Stadia games in particular. Splash Damage, of course, being one of those studios. And just to kind of wrap up the show, gentlemen, for this week, which is our return to the podcasting studio, I wanted to just cast our eyes forward into the beyond of 2021. What can you see, Tom? What do your elf eyes see?
What do your elf eyes see? I'm wearing glasses, so I can't see much.
Not that much without them. I too am blind without glasses. But essentially, for 2021, just to take a few moments and see and discuss what we would like to see from Stadia, because personally, I feel like they've had a really good end to the year. I think 2020 they wrapped things up with the fantastic launch of Cyberpunk, obviously running better on Stadia than anywhere outside of the PC world. And I just think generally the consensus in the public eye, journalistic side of things, they've really, really turned a corner these last kind of 3 or 4 months with their marketing, their Twitter account. Although I wish they would stop replying with the keep tuned for our latest updates and social media channels for that.
There was one on that one. I saw someone tweet before. I think one of you two might have showed me. It's like someone was asking when they could download Stadia games.
Oh, play it offline.
Keep tuned the Twitter account for the latest updates. Yeah. So nothing to share about that. It's like, yeah, you do have something to share about that. It's not going to happen. It's against the concept of the platform.
Yeah, when can I play Stadia games offline? We'll keep you updated. Keep tuned to our social media feeds. It's like, come on. But jokes aside, some of the things we're going forward. So I've got a couple of bullet points, gentlemen. I'll just throw out to you both. Missing features for Stadia. So in 2021, what of the missing features, either promised or expecting, would you like to see come to Stadia across the next 12 months?
The ever elusive search feature might be a good one, first of all. Yeah. I definitely have an issue with finding games on Stadia now. I have now cracked the 100 game collection. Damn. So nice. Yeah, I'm struggling.
Especially with, as we've talked, like, what was it, 7 pro games for December? Like that, you rack up the games very quickly, and I for me, it doesn't necessarily need to be a search feature. Some sort of user customizable UI. I like a folder system, so I can just put games in certain folders and go, there we go. Or maybe like a pin board system, so my favorite games I can just pin to the top of the list. So there's multiple ways to do it, but just generally a UI overhaul.
Okay.
UI overhaul.
Yeah.
I sort of agree with that. Yeah.
I'm thinking, for me, something probably feature-wise, just the controller setup, because I think we've seen a lot of Amazon Luna that it works across all of them, but a feature I would like to see is the controller be paired constantly. So if you switch between devices, you don't have to repair the controller, because surely the controller is linked to the server. So it should be able to play the game regardless of a display being attached through your phone, your tablet, your PC, whatever. And I know Luna's demonstrated this really, really well, where you can just basically jump to a different screen and the controller is paired to the server, so you don't need to repair it. Whereas, if I go from my phone to my TV, I have to reboot the controller, type in the code, and relink it back up. But it's relinking back up to the exact same server, so it would be nice to have a smoother switch, I think, between them. And if Luna can do it, then I'm sure Stadia certainly can. So for someone who jumps between multiple devices, I would like to see that become a reality in 2021.
Okay.
And while we're at it, bring it to the goddamn Chromecast with TV. That's a feature.
I think we're actually, you know, it's interesting you say that, because it is now visible on the store section of the app now for if you were looking to get additional apps on the Chromecast with Google TV. It's now there, but it says it's coming soon. So it is one step closer, shall we say.
Interesting.
That's one definitely for me that I'd never even thought of, because at the moment I've still got my Chromecast Ultra attached to my TV downstairs.
Oh,
so my TV, I have 2 Chromecasts.
We absolutely love our Google TV now. Like it's on our main TV downstairs, and seriously, like I don't want to go back now. I actually hate going to the Ultra and having to broadcast from my phone now. It's actually a real pain in the ass compared to.
I use both. I do use my Google TV more, but because it doesn't have Stadia, I need it the Ultra downstairs still. I've got another Ultra in the box doing now as well.
Yeah. Actually, as a question to that then, Tom, so I too, like the both of you, have my eyes on a Google Chromecast with TV, which is still the stupidest, longest name that you could possibly put on a product.
Yes,
because of the controller specifically. But I do have a question now, specifically to the power brick that comes with it for you too. What type of power brick does it come with? Is it quite?
It's exactly the same one. It's the same one you use for the Stadia controller to charge it. Exactly the same.
Okay, because you guys know when we fitted out the lounge, we've got a flat screen TV. Now the Ultra power brick, if you're not familiar with it, ladies and gentlemen, I have it right here. Just drop everything, break everything as you do. The Ultra power brick
for audio listeners.
Yeah, sorry. This guy, for someone who's trying to attach his TV to a wall with minimal give behind it, is ridiculous. Who designs a plug that sticks out probably a good 3-4 inches from the wall. So what I've had to do is I've took a power brick from a Google Home Mini, attached it to my Chromecast Ultra so it can actually fit as flush as I can possibly get it. However, now I'm not, again, I don't know how the inner workings of Chromecast work. The Chromecast Ultra can no longer stream 4K video without this power adapter, according to when you turn the TV on. So it says you can only watch 4K content when using the correct power adapter. So for some reason, even though the device turns on and I can stream, I can play Stadia, it won't let me stream 4K without this power brick specifically.
I wonder if it's a wattage issue, like an actual power.
Yeah.
For 4K, would that make that much? Like in my mind, I'm like, well, it's just a stream. I don't know.
Yeah, it might just be a generational thing with like the amount of power draw, or it could be because that plug will have some sort of logic in there for the Ethernet connection.
True.
It could be something to do with that.
That's interesting. But yeah, to sort of like continue with the conversation before, so it's exactly the same type of power connector you use to charge a Stadia controller. The Chromecast with Google TV is powered by a USB-C type connector, and it's just the USB-C to a USB cable plugged into that power brick into the wall.
Which are the best ones? I don't like the ones that come with USB-C to USB-C, because it means that brick is only works over that one device or that one cable. But...
So I'd be interested to know whether recently in this room here, I swapped out the plug sockets and fitted those sort of like double gang plug sockets with the USB ports on. So I'd be interested to know if you could take the power brick out of it and just go USB-C to a USB adapter in a wall socket and see if it would power it through that way and still be able to get you 4K
through the mains.
Yeah.
The thing to remember is, even with like USB-C, USB-C isn't just USB-C. There's different standards within it.
Yes, there are.
That's why you can get like fast charging ones.
So getting back onto the topic you talked about before of like Stadia features for 2021 and so on. Over Christmas, one of the things that I personally really was sort of, let's say like most of my gifts over the holiday season were smart devices. So for example, I'm going to see if I can try and get this without knocking everything over.
For audio listeners, he's got off of his chair. He's
knocking things over. There goes the shelves.
The paintings have fallen off the wall. The light, the lampshades.
Was that just flipped off?
So I've got a Philips Hue light strip right here. So this is one of the ones that changes color. It's got 16 million colors, plus it's got like the warm light spectrum as well, the natural light spectrum too. I've been thinking long and hard about this because I also bought some additional bulbs for the house as well, and actually. In this room, I've got a new ceiling light, which I've fitted three bulbs in as well. Stadia, Google, home integration. Wouldn't it be really cool to be able to allow Stadia to sort of like integrate with your smart home and almost affect like the home that you're in? So let's say you're in a room with things like the light strips and so on, to have Stadia actually be able to communicate with smart devices like this. So let's say you're playing a horror game, you could have it changing the colors or dimming the lights and things like that at the same time that you're actually going through and experiencing it. Or if you've got a smart speaker, what? You've got sound going on.
Nothing somewhere similar to like the DualShock 4 with the light bar and like the inbuilt speaker, but for your entire room.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think it'd be really cool to be able to have it sort of like, connect to your Google Home somehow and just sort of like fuck with your home settings.
I'd be very surprised if there hasn't been some serious conversations happening at Stadia about that sort of thing. But they've probably gone, yes, this is it's very much a thing for the future, rather than the present is like probably basically catching up with like where Sony and Microsoft are in terms of the gaming landscape.
Don't get me wrong.
Which is
this isn't something that I want immediately. This is something that I'm thinking sort of long term. It'd be a nice little quality of life sort of addition. You see PlayStation with the DualShock. The DualSense controller and changing the way that like we sort of experience games firsthand. I'd like to see what Google can do with Stadia, sort of like on a cloud level, really.
If you did something like the Home Hub, you could use that as a second screen that displays the map for a game.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Indeed. Yeah. I'm just picturing there's somewhere, Tom. There's a bloke who's just or a woman who's working on the Stadia search bar feature, and he's like, I'm nearly finished, I've nearly got it ready to go, and someone goes, I was listening to a podcast the other day and this guy said about integrating Hue light bulbs into Stadia, and he's like, oh yeah, that's a phenomenal idea. Pause the search bar project he's working on, and he dives straight into working on Hue light bulbs, and once again the search functionality sits there abandoned in their roadmap plans.
All right, so we're early on in 2021, so I'm just going to say this, guys. If you don't get the search bar in 2021, you can blame this guy right here.
It's got to be on.
That's me.
Yeah. So moving away from the missing features, I guess, gentlemen, as we push into the rest of the year, the next big topic, I guess, is kind of going to be games library. And I think this is something that I've seen a couple of people in our Discord group. So again, if you are new to the show, new to Stadia, we've got a great Discord community going on. The link is in the description below if you want to engage and chat more with other Stadia and Sounds of Stadia specifically. Listeners and viewers as well. There's been a bit of chatter about games coming to the platform, and I think people are starting to question now if we're going to be getting things like the new Harry Potter game, or the Hogwarts game, I suppose, that's scheduled for later this year. We've got the Batman Arkham games coming out. We still don't know where FIFA is. There's a couple of other titles. I know that typical gong is going to be rung about is Call of Duty and Fortnite coming. And as we head into 2021, the games library, again, is going to be a point of scrutiny. When we get more AAA titles trickle out throughout the course of the year, we know we're getting Hitman 3, we know we're getting Far Cry 6. What's going to be that next big title that we're going to be totally left in the dark about and we're not going to know about? What do we think for games library?
This is going to be an interesting... Yeah, this is going to be an interesting year as well, because it's the PS5 and Xbox Series generation's first real year as being out in the wild. On top of that, also the PC, like Nvidia and AMD, brought out a completely new generation of graphics cards. So gaming as a whole has just took another generational step forward. It's not just in console gaming. So it's going to be. I think we need to get FIFA 2022 this year. Let's just put that out there. Yeah, day and date this year. That needs to be. I think extrapolate that into EA's library. Just. EA's big titles coming this year should be day and date.
Mm-hmm. I'm still all over needing to see Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I really think that this year I want to see BioWare on board with Stadia, and I want to see Activision Blizzard on board with Stadia. Yeah. I think with Diablo 4, Overwatch 2 coming out, I really think Google should be like digging in deep, and the Stadia team should be trying to get Blizzard on board, because those are going to be two huge titles that have got, like, you know, they've got diehard player bases.
The thing is, if they're getting cross-platformers, that Activision Blizzard are software developers, not hardware. So if there's a long conversation, if you get a cross-platform, I think Activision Blizzard might be worried about player base and most of their games being multiplayer, predominantly anyway. They might be worried that too small a player base, we're not going to get the investment on the return. But if it's cross-platform, then that should be not a non-issue.
True, but we've also seen what Cyberpunk could do on Stadia compared to other platforms. So if Google get another win like that with Stadia, with a game that plays really well on Stadia and, you know, is instantly accessible compared to on PC with a 7-hour download, or, you know, this, that, or the other, then I really think that we can again sort of capitalize on that sort of increase of player base, because it definitely worked with Cyberpunk. Definitely worked. We've seen that player base grow now. So I think if they can sort of get that sort of thing going, maybe like once per quarter, then by the time those games come out, hopefully we should be in a position where, fingers crossed that we do see them on the platform.
For me as well, there needs to be, I think, upgrading Stadia's hardware at some point, because after playing a bit of my PS5 and playing Stadia, there is a difference. Like Cyberpunk works so well on Stadia, but most other games at the moment are looking better on PlayStation and Xbox again. And so even if a game comes out on both platforms, you kind of need to be at least hitting the same level of quality of performance for the games, or close enough.
Well, we're all hoping to hear from things like ray tracing and such, right? Because that's the next.
Well, ray tracing is supposed to be coming with Hitman 3. Like that much has been confirmed. So we're just.
And it was rumored with Chorus as well.
I think the thing we need to sort of like own back in on is I can't remember whether it was the John Justice interview or whether it was I forget his name, the other guy with the
Jackie B.
Yes, Jackie B. Where they said that we won't talk about Stadia as having like a 2.0 or anything anymore, because they said the hardware improvements will be happening, but they will be happening just over a lot longer period of time as they roll out. It won't be like an instant switch, for example. It won't be done overnight. Boom.
And that's how I've always viewed it.
Yeah.
But they just need to get the marketing right, so when a game comes out on multiple platforms, that people are seeing this as comparable to the Xbox Series X and the PS5, and not the PS4 and Xbox One.
I'm with you on that.
You need to get that in people's heads, so there has to be a little bit of talking about it. It doesn't have to go, oh yeah, we've upgraded the hardware so it runs as good as. You just need to go, yeah, it's as good as.
Yeah, it's interesting that they did come out and say that we won't be talking about like generational leaps and stuff like that. But from a marketing standpoint, surely you have to come out and say that your product is now on par or better than the competition. Like that's marketing 101. You can't just be silent and think, people will watch this random YouTube video that talks about like the guys in the community are going to do great work, like Jem and Adam over at Stadia Source, who do all the pixel counts and the 4K breakdowns and comparison resolution videos, and that's all great, but you've got to expect Stadia's marketing team to come out and say ray tracing looks fantastic in Hitman 3. Check it out here with no downloads, no updates. But they can't just stay silent and expect people to know. Otherwise, everyone, like again, the average consumer, our friend Chase will talk about that all day long. If you're just in it for 1 or 2 games a year, and Stadia came out in 2019, as we start to creep around to like 2023, 2024. At what point does Stadia not have a 2.0 and people start thinking, oh, isn't that old thing? Does that even still work anymore? Because we'll be at the cusp of probably a PS5 Pro or an Xbox iteration. And the way the industry works is you need that next big thing to keep people like involved and interacted. And yeah, I get the concept of Stadia, it's great, but they need that marketing push. I think ray tracing is a great feather to their bow to kind of have to shout about.
I wonder if they're relying on whenever... Assume we've got to a point where everything's day and date with Stadia and other platforms. Eventually, as you see the Xbox One and the PS4 logo disappear, that the Stadia logo's still there, and you're left with PS5, Xbox Series, and Stadia, that it just naturally becomes part of the next generation, and that's... And while they're constantly talking about the upgrade the hardware on your end.
But then that's sort of, to me, that sort of like opens up to being sort of like subjective to being considered alongside the older gen, because as long as those older gens are still being talked about and that Stadia label's there, as long as they're there, it's still, it's until they disappear. It's still
that's what I mean. Once the label have disappeared and that Stadia logo hasn't, it's still there.
I get that, but how long are they going to keep developing for PS4 and Xbox One for? Because that usually runs quite a while into the life cycle.
I imagine it's going to be a couple of years, especially with the delays they've had and like how difficult it's been to get hold of the consoles this time round.
Well, hopefully it's not the case, though. Hopefully it's not the case.
Who knows? It's good. The one thing we know is they are keeping the cards close to the chest, at least probably for the next year.
Yeah. So, to round things out, gentlemen, I think we can all agree that the one thing Stadia does need for 2021 is a roadmap of releases. Because I, for one, do not want to spend another 12 months talking about Stadia and not knowing when stuff's coming out day in day. It's like the SpongeBob thing, again, lesser titles, but I don't want us to be going into... Yeah, Cyberpunk, but I just don't want to spend another year of knowing for a hardened fact that this game is coming out this year. Like, if it is the Hogwarts game, for example, Warner Brothers teased it at the Summer of Games E3, whatever the hell that was last year. I don't want to get around to being like 2 weeks out from release and we have no clue or indication from Google that it's coming to the platform, and then they randomly stealth drop it or they talk about it 3 months after the fact it's came out. They need to have their relationships with the likes of Warner Brothers and other studios a lot clearer, but more importantly for us as consumers, a date. We need stuff to know when stuff's coming out. And
it's a classic thing. It's like, it's coming 2022. When it's 2022, it's coming fall 2022. When it gets to fall, it's coming November.
Yeah.
And then get to November, it's November the 17th. Happy birthday, Richie.
It just feels like, I mean, our friend Brian tweeted out about, I know I joke about FIFA, but on the website it says we'll be telling you more. FIFA will be coming winter season, and then it says we'll tell you more about this before the end of the year, and the end of the year is gone and they haven't told us anymore. They haven't updated us anymore. So what, we just wait in perpetuity. And again, it's all well and good with lesser titles and such, but when you're talking about the big hitters, it needs to be either day and date mentioned or not. You can't surely put a Stadia logo on a trailer and say it's coming if it's not coming until later in the fact. And they need to sort that out, and I'd love to see a roadmap of concrete dates.
I'd almost be more forgiving with FIFA if it was the first EA game on there, because it might have been a case of getting the engine running, but we've got Jedi Fallen Order, which runs on the same engine.
It doesn't. Jedi Fallen Order is Unreal Engine, not Frostbite.
Oh, okay. So it could be the engine then. It could be getting Frostbite over.
Damn
Frostbite.
Yay, Frostbite. But
hey, if we get Frostbite, we get lots of things with it, though.
That's true.
So it might just be getting that first hurdle, getting Frostbite working, and the games, and then the floodgates might open for EA.
Mm-hmm, certainly. Maybe. So, final one. Do we think we'll see a Stadia Connect anytime soon to kickstart the new year? No. You think they're done? They're not a thing? No. Or...
maybe March.
March time?
I reckon. Yeah. It's the end of the financial year. It's the end of March.
That's true.
So it's our last big push for the year. Maybe late February or early March.
Because we are kind of in for a few quiet months, aren't we? Just in the games industry in general, not Stadia specific, but we've got Hitman Far Cry in May, I think it was pushed back to. We've got Riders Republic from Ubisoft as well in February, I believe. But aside from that, it's quite quiet on the gaming front, so we shall see.
We had a lot condensed into the last few months.
It's
going to be almost nice to hit the backlog a bit.
Yeah, get into it. Dig in, grab your spoon and delve in, gentlemen. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for episode 67 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining myself, Chris, Tom, and Richie talking about all things Google Stadia and gaming. And of course, we'll be back this week with our regular gaming stream this upcoming Thursday, so we'll no doubt be delving in and having loads of fun with the community and you lovely people out there as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Share us with your friends and help us really push this year to that 1K mark. As soon as we pass that 1K mark, it all changes, is what I've been informed by our friends in the community. Everything changes. People get, what is it, top chat? What's the thing everyone seems to buzz over?
Super chat.
Super chat.
We've got our own custom emotes. Richie will wear a party hat. May even shave the beard. We'll see. No promises.
No promises, but I've heard it's great things, so we're looking forward to that. It's on the horizon. It's almost within reaching distance. We'll only get there with your continued support and love. And again, if you want to give us that bit of support, go that extra bit further in 2021. If you've enjoyed our content for the last year and a half, check out patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia. We'd massively appreciate any additional support you can give us to improve and invest in the tech, like new cameras, microphones, PC, all of the many, many thousands, and I'd say thousands because literally it is, that we've invested this last year to make the content better for you, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. So thank you very much once again for your support last year. As we delve forward into 2021 and beyond, we'll be here with you alongside Google Stadia. Thank you very much for watching this week. Take care. Game on. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. Have a great week, everyone. Happy New Year once again. Game on. Goodbye.
Bye. Good night. Good night.
Good night.